Boker Tov from London and Israel. Boker Tov is good morning. Hello is Shalom. And I'm very happy. Sorry for the screaming in the background. I have two babies at home. I'm very happy to open our session today. It will be one out of, at the moment, 4 lectures or webinars, call it how you wish, with Michelle. All about Israel, everything you wanted or did not want to know, with the popular round tour and some hidden gems. And if you have any questions, feel free to write it down in our chat, and we'll be try to answer everything at the end of our lecture. Everything, including questions, should take less than an hour. We try not to take too much of your time. But I remind you, if anything goes wrong technically, or you have to go or something, we're recording it. We'll be able to send it to you later. But please stay, because it's going to be a lot of fun. So I don't think I need to introduce you to Michelle, but so Michelle, just take the lead and enjoy.
Well, hello, all you cats and kittens. Yes, we've all watched Tiger King during our quarantine. Hi, my name is Michelle Roberts, and a lot of you know me, but there's also a lot of people that don't know me. I am the Business Development Manager for the Israel Tourist Office in London, and my primary job is to work with the travel trade and train people on Israel. So, there is important things that you need to know before you hear me, especially if you haven't heard me before. I am not a guide, as in I don't know a lot of dates and things like that, but what I do know is what the sites are and what they will offer people, as in for tourism. So I'm telling you this from a lot of personal point of views, because there's a lot of cool things, and I'm going to get into it. So here we go, Israel's popular circle tour. Now, we say it's a circle tour, and we say we want to try to get my things to go. There we go. Hold on. Sorry. First technical issue. Now, we say it's a circle tour, but as you can see, it's not quite a circle tour. This is as the crow flies, by the way. We are going to take you around. A lot of the escorted tours will visit Tel Aviv. They'll visit Caesarea, Haifa, Echo, Nazareth, the Sea of Galilee, Jerusalem, and the Dead Sea. So my job today is just take you around these places and give you a taste of what's on offer at them and what people like to see when they're there. But first, for the few of you who aren't that au fait with what Israel's all about, here are some basic facts. Now, at the moment, the currency is the shekel. I checked the exchange rate yesterday, and we're hovering right about 4.4 shekels to the pound. It is basically the same as everywhere else. We just don't know where the currencies are going to be going. But when you're thinking about Israel, if you think London prices, you'll be there. Time difference is only 2 hours for the majority of the year. You do have a little in spring and autumn where it goes down to 1 or 3 hours, but it's a very short thing. What this means is your clients can get a completely different environment without having jet lag, which I hate. No vaccinations are required. Important thing about visas. Most European, in fact, I think all of Europe, does not need to have a visa. Especially UK, no visas required. You just have to make sure you have 6 months left in your passport when you fly back from Israel. And it's important to know as well that when you land at Ben Gurion, nobody gets stamps in their passport anymore. Everybody gets a landing card, and this works really well because sometimes other countries don't like Israeli stamps, so this was the easiest thing to do. You just get a landing card, you keep it with you the whole time, and then you just take it out of your passport when you head home. So much easier. Now, Israel is great for so many things. I mean, the public transportation over there is absolutely brilliant. The only thing to remember, it does not run in most places from sundown on Friday to sundown on Saturday. However, recently Tel Aviv has actually added a little shirut bus that's running around the city that you can now get on Saturdays, some bus service in Tel Aviv. Language. one of the reasons I can still work here is because English is very widely spoken. Now, Hebrew and Arabic are the official languages, but so many people speak English, and anybody to do really with the travel industry will speak English. And what's really cool is all the road signs are in Hebrew, Arabic, and English, so you'll always be able to tell where you are. And the Israeli weekend is on Friday and Saturday, and not Saturday and Sunday. So just keep that in mind when you're there, because Sunday is going to be like our Monday. So anyway, you get used to it when you're over there. So this is our little tour. I'm going to be taking you around Israel, and our first stop is going to be Tel Aviv. Now, Tel Aviv the city itself is not particularly old. It is, in fact, maybe just recently has turned 111 years old. However, the part of Jaffa is millennia old. It's been mentioned in the Bible and everything else. But when everybody started settling the area, people moved out from the Jaffa area and formed Tel Aviv. And we're going to take you around a few of the different areas. Now, please keep in mind, for these big destinations like Tel Aviv and Jerusalem, I'm skimming the surface. We are going to be doing a future webinar that goes into Tel Aviv and Jerusalem, so I'll be going into more detail then. But first, we're going to talk about the old part of the city, which is Jaffa. Jaffa is the original port. It was mentioned in the Bible. The main biblical story that Jaffa gets mentioned is that this is where Jonah set off in a boat trying to escape God's demands and ended up getting swallowed by a whale. So that is one of the big things. But it is a city that this area has so much historic importance. It has gone through tons of different occupiers. You've had also, the big thing is that there was a huge siege by Napoleon there. And if you go there and you actually have a decent guide, they can tell you all the history and all the stories. And I have done several different guides through Jaffa, in fact, all of Israel. And I learn something different every single time I go, because everybody tells something a little bit different. So one of the nice things is the fact that it is this old architecture. It was in the 70s, I think it was the late 60s and 70s, where it was really in a lot of disrepair, and they decided to make it an artist colony and open it up for artists. And now it is one of the just trendy and cool, tons of different art galleries and cafes. It is so much fun exploring these little alleys. However, you've also got in Jaffa something that's really popular, which is the flea market. I would love to go do this flea market. I would love to visit Israel like in early December to go to the flea market and just get the most interesting Christmas presents for people. But you can do that all over Israel. But then you've got the gorgeous, gorgeous views from the top of Jaffa. This is just a sample of one of the beautiful views you get. Even if you're not interested in history, it's worth going to the top of Jaffa just to see the Mediterranean Ocean and Tel Aviv off in the distance. It's really, really nice. Now, one of the things that Tel Aviv is known for is its architecture. Now, they have the largest collection of Bauhaus buildings in the world, and they tend to be painted white, thus its nickname, the White City. In fact, the architecture in Tel Aviv has UNESCO World Heritage status because of all the wonderful Bauhaus architecture that you can see. And just walking around the city, it's just fun looking at the buildings. It's amazing. So in Tel Aviv, you have just got a literal ton of things to do. Shopping, not only shopping in really lovely malls with lots of major stores and things like that, but you also have more unique shopping experiences, like in the bottom corner here. This is actually a shot taken from the Arts and Crafts Market. There is a Hebrew name for this market, and I'm not even going to joke and say something because it will be completely wrong. But every Tuesday,
Binyamin.
Thank you, sweetie.
It's very hard.
But this is run every Tuesday and Friday, and it's all the artists are doing the little stalls on there. So you get to meet the people who actually made the art. It is really interesting to walk around here, and just make sure you got money, people, because you're going to want to buy stuff. But you also have things like the markets. You've got Carmel Market, which is Israel's oldest market. It is a real eclectic mix of everything from toys to spices to food to produce. And when you're walking through this market, the atmosphere is just really electric, but it's a lot of fun to go. And even just for Tel Aviv, just sitting and watching the people go by. It is such a cafe culture city where you can sit outside, enjoy amazing coffee, go to the bakery, grab all this stuff. It just is a place you could literally spend a month there and do absolutely nothing and completely enjoy yourself. And you can't talk about Tel Aviv without discussing the beach. That is probably one of the things that makes Tel Aviv one of the best places on the planet to visit, in my estimation, because you've got everything. You've got history, you've got art, you've got all this culture, and then you make it up with just having this beach that you can relax and chill and enjoy. There's great water sports, and what I found really interesting is how clean and manicured they keep this beach. It's stunning, and it gives you a real lovely taste of being able to go on the go and see all this stuff, but still be able to just sit and chill and watch the beautiful Mediterranean, go in the water, have a soak. It's one of the real hot spots about going to Tel Aviv. And I can't mention Tel Aviv without mentioning the fact that, hey, it is very LGBT friendly. I don't know the situation this year at the moment, but normally, on normal years, every year they will do a Pride Festival in Tel Aviv, and it normally happens at the beginning of June. I don't know what's going to happen this year, but trust me, it'll be back the next year. But all year long, Tel Aviv is extremely LGBT friendly. You will see rainbow flags flying year round. And what the really cool thing about it is the fact that for LGBT, you know how you're in London. If you want to go to a gay nightclub, you will go to Soho. You are in any of the other areas of the world, there's like little neighborhoods or ghettos that you will have all the gay clubs. Tel Aviv's not like that. Tel Aviv is all over friendly. But it is a wonderful place to go, and you will find a very friendly welcome for anybody in the LGBT community. So that was this is now about the nightlife. Now, I hope this goes. It's a very short video. It's the only video of my presentation, but this really does explain the nightlife so much better than I can.
Michelle, if you can fix it, there's no sound. We can just see it. You're the only one that can hear it.
Now, I literally had to use that because
Michelle, I just will mention, you were dancing, obviously, so you heard the sound, but all of us, we didn't hear.
Oh,
just mention that we would be more than happy. We will send the link to everyone that participated today, and you can dance in your own living room. Sorry for that.
I am so I didn't realize that wasn't going to come on. Well, luckily for me, that was the only video I had. But the main reason I wanted to show that is because I'm a big wimp. I'm in bed by 11 o'clock. that little clip really shows you the vibrancy of the nightlife in Tel Aviv. So now we're going to head up on the next stop along our little trip, and that is the port city of Caesarea. Caesarea is a national park, and this was built by King Herod and named Caesarea because he was trying to basically kiss up to Caesar Augustus. So, but the archaeology here is really, really superb. This just gives you a photo of along the front. It has a few real famous sites there, which one of them is the amphitheater that was originally built by Herod. The really cool thing about this amphitheater is they really keep it up, and they still do concerts there in the summer. That is on my bucket list of being able to go watch a concert on this ancient Roman amphitheater with the beautiful Mediterranean in the background. But I will do that eventually. There's also throughout the park some great antiquities you can look at. These are just samples of some amazing marble statues that they've excavated. And one of the most popular places to have your photo taken in Israel is the ancient aqueduct that used to run to the city. It is very scenic, and the beach there is, there's not a lot of people sometimes. It is really lovely, and it was actually voted one of the best beaches in Israel. And this is just a quick look at the visitor center. The visitor center actually has interactive displays that you can go and learn all about the history of the port. This is really good for when you have kids, because sometimes I know kids don't. I find ancient archaeology really fascinating, but children sometimes don't. But a lot of the places in Israel have these lovely visitor centers where you can actually have interactive, different things that'll keep the children.
I'm not going into a demographic and statistic, but most of the people I know have between 3 to 4 kids. Secular families, so we have a lot of kids, so we have a lot of spare time with the kids trying to look for some stuff. So the majority of the places in Israel are really, really oriented and lovely to go with your family.
Yes, very child-friendly Israel. I think a lot of times we don't concentrate on that enough, but it is really seriously the perfect place to take families. Okay, so up from Caesarea, we're now going to enter the port city of Haifa. Now, Haifa is one of the places that you will find majority of the cruise ships stop. They stop there for a lot of different reasons. One, Haifa is a lovely cultural city. It's one of the most integrated city in Israel. They are very proud of the fact that everybody is living in harmony. You've got Arabs and Jews, Muslims, Baha'i. It is one of the things that they really love to tell you about. But the Baha'i Gardens is probably the main thing that people do in Haifa because, as you can see, they are just stunning. But for cruise ships, it's an important stop because of its close proximity to all the things in the Galilee. You've got what I'm going to be talking about after this. People can get off, do the cruise. They can do a full day trip seeing all the different sites around the Sea of Galilee and north of Israel and get back to the cruise ship. So it's a very popular place for the ships to stop. Now, the Baha'i Gardens, this is a 19-level of beautifully sculptured gardens. And it's not actually a church, but that shrine you see in the image, that is where their founder, it's the shrine to their founder. And this the best thing to say is, how sometimes, like, for instance, Tower Bridge in London, everybody has seen a photo of it, but when you see it in person, it takes on a whole new meaning. The Baha'i Gardens are like this. I am so chuffed I got to go and see this more than once because when you're there, it's just so spectacular. Luckily for you, if you're not with a group, there is a really cool cable car that can take you to the top so you can take in all these views. And from the top down, you not only see the Baha'i Gardens, you can see the entire coast sweeping out. It is one of the nicest views in Israel, in my opinion. And Haifa isn't just the Baha'i Gardens. I mean, it's got a wonderful Arab market. There are really nice beaches, lots of activity on the beachfront, lots of cafes, things like that to keep you going. And at the bottom here, this is what we call the German colony. And the German colony can be seen because it's got these red roof tiles. But what's nice about this is it has a lot of restaurants and bars. So, you know, for your evening meal, can you imagine being able to sit outside, watching the Mediterranean sunset, and then watching all the lights of the Baha'i Gardens blink into life? I didn't get to do that at sunset, but eventually I will, because it is very scenic and people really love to experience this. So right up the coast now, we have, again, an incredible archaeological city, which is Akko or Acre. You can call it either. Both are correct. I tend to use Akko only because I just like it better. Anyway, here you've got an aerial of the city of Akko. What makes Akko so special is the fact that there are so many layers of history in this little area. First of all, it's where Richard the Lionheart made his base for the Crusades. The Knights Templar were based there. They handled all the money coming in and out of the country. It was like one of the first places actually that they did real banking, because people would come from all over the world to do their pilgrimages way back in olden times. And they created the banking system so people could have money when they got here. There's a lot of history about this. Way too much for me to tell you in this little session. But let's go underground. So you've got the underground part of Akko and the overground. Now this is the underground part. They are excavating new things to see all the time. One of Akko's big claims to fame is the simple fact that Napoleon tried to invade it and he could not invade it. This was a place he failed because of the strong fortifications and everything else. Here you've got the tunnel. This is one of the Knights Templar tunnel where they used to go from the port into the main city. And down in this corner, this is the Crusader Dining Hall. Now, one of the really amazing things that I've done there is we had an event, an evening meal set up in this hall. And you feel like you're in an ancient castle. The architecture is really spectacular. But then you've also got the above ground. Now, the above ground area is probably one of the best examples of an Ottoman walled city. In fact, the UNESCO, again, Akko has World Heritage status, primarily because of two reasons, because of the underground excavations and also the wonderful example of the Ottoman walled city. So, from Akko, normally the tours will go inland and start touring around the Sea of Galilee. Now, Nazareth, this is Nazareth. Nazareth is Israel's largest Arab city, and it is the church, home to the Church of Annunciation, along with a ton of different other Christian sites that you can see. Church of Annunciation is probably the main one, but you've all got all smaller chapels and churches all over the place. And also is wonderful, wonderful Arab market. See, now this is inside the Church of Annunciation, or some people call it the Basilica of the Annunciation. If you look down here, underneath this area, that is believed to be where the house of Mary was located. Inside, the funny thing is, even if you're not religious, and you don't have to be religious, it is so cool to go inside this place. The stained glass is just stunning, and the architecture is really interesting how they've got the whole thing set up. And now outside, again, one of my favorite things is the fact that their courtyard is full of mosaics of the Virgin Mary. And all countries from around the world have sent them a mosaic with the representation of what the Mother Virgin Mary looks like in their eyes. If you can see, Ethiopia is looking a little bit different than Bulgaria, but it just gives you an idea about how all the different cultures around the world will see the Bible through their eyes. And it's really interesting to see all this stuff. And of course, you've got the Great Arab Market. One time I was there, we were walking around the Arab Market and somebody just got a big old bag of fresh pita bread. And we were just sharing it around. And ooh, there's nothing like just getting that fresh pita bread from one of the Arab bakers. It is really nice. And I'm sorry if I'm making you hungry right before lunch.
with olive oil and za'atar, Michelle, I asked.
Oh, yeah, sorry. We have to have olive oil and za'atar with the pita bread.
Or with the Jerusalem bagel, sorry.
Oh, yeah.
Goes on and on with.
Listen, I enjoyed it without anything on it. That's how good the pitas are over there. Okay, now I'm going to take you over to the Sea of Galilee. This is a very breathtaking area of the country. Now, the Sea of Galilee itself, it's called Sea of Galilee primarily in the Bible, but locally it's called Lake Kinneret. It is a freshwater lake, and actually it is below sea level as well. I think it's it's over 200 meters below sea level. So it's also the lowest elevated freshwater lake in the world. But scenic, really nice, lots of things to see and do around there. I wanted to show you very quickly. This is the main city around the Sea of Galilee, and this is Tiberias. Most of the tours will end up having at least 1 or 2 nights in this area, primarily because of its location and how close it is to all the different things around the Sea of Galilee. Very popular and wonderful to do is the boat ride. You will find lots of departures that you'll be able to take an ancient wooden boat, just like in the time of, they basically make it look at just like in the time of Jesus. And just doing it takes 45 minutes to an hour to do a cruise from up near Capernaum down to the Kennesaw kibbutz area. But it is well worth taking the time to do this because it's very peaceful. The scenery you will see is really lovely, and it's a nice, calm thing to do with all the walking around you end up doing in Israel. Now, this is the Mount of Beatitudes. Now, most of the sites you will see are going to be both archaeological and biblical, is the best way to put it. However, the Mount of Beatitudes, there isn't any archaeology there, but even just this chapel is interesting because this chapel was actually commissioned by Benito Mussolini, and it's made of Italian marble. But the views of the Sea of Galilee from this site are, everybody should see it. Every time I go, I take more photos. But the chapel itself is really beautiful and lovely, lovely gardens. Now, let's go back to the nerdy archaeological stuff. And this is the site of Capernaum or Capernaum. It depends on what country you're from is how they pronounce it. Now, this is the village where they believe that Jesus made his base when he was preaching around the Galilee. And if you see up here, that is actually a church, a little chapel that they've created that goes over what they believe was Peter the Apostle's house. And this is the inside of it down here. And as you can see, there's a glass floor, and you can actually, while you're in the chapel, look down and see the remains of the house they believe that Jesus lived with Peter. And over here, you have got this is the ancient synagogue where they believe that Jesus actually preached. And it's a wonderful, wonderful place. It allows you to, this is one of the spots that really connects you to the Bible and the stories from the Bible, but also history. And what the Sea of Galilee, and basically what all the Christian sites and virtually any religious sites in Israel do, it allows you to match up the history and archaeology with the Bible. And it brings everything to life so much better when you actually go and visit it. Okay, now we are heading to Jerusalem. Now, again, I am scratching the mere surface of Jerusalem today because there's going to be program, there's going to be modules and webinars I'm doing where it's going to go a lot deeper. But Jerusalem is used to be the center of the universe. It is thousands and thousands of years old, but you have two distinct parts. You've got the old city and you've got the new city. And I'm going to just give you a briefest glimpse on either one of them. So we go down to the old city. Now, the old city is broken up into 4 quarters. You have the Christian, Jewish, Muslim, and Armenian. And when I first started working here, I had this vision when I went to the old city that there was going to be checkpoints at every time the quarter changes. Take that right out of your head. Sometimes the only way you actually know that you were in a different quarter is all of the stuff in the shop changes. It will go from like nativity scenes to beautiful rugs. And you'll realize very quickly, oh, I'm in a different quarter. I have been there quite a few times. You walk through the city, the atmosphere is just magic. There is something about the old city that will affect you. There's a spirituality always present there. I'm, full disclosure, personal stuff here, I'm agnostic. I have no set beliefs. But if somebody like me can go there and feel something in the air, everybody would be able to go there and feel something in the air. So in the old city, here's a few of the really big things you want to see. First of all, you've got obviously the Via Dolorosa, which is you can follow the 14 stations of the cross, and everything ends here, which is the Church of the Holy Sepulchre. The last 5 stations of the cross are here, and this is where they believe Jesus was crucified and his tomb's in there. It's also important to know that sometimes the Christians believe this is where the tomb was. There is also another proposed location just outside the old city called the Garden Tomb, where some people think that's where the tomb was. But no matter where it is, the atmosphere when you're visiting this is palpable. You really, when you walk in, you feel the strength of the atmosphere with, I know that sounds really, really hippie crazy, but that's the way you feel. Then you've got the lovely Tower of David. Now, the Tower of David is great archaeology on offer, but what's really cool is in the evenings, they have the nighttime spectacular there. And the nighttime spectacular is they have a seating area, and they basically show you the history of Jerusalem through presentation. They light up the walls. This sound system is probably one of the best sound systems I've ever heard in my life. And they go through the entire history of the area, and it sounds like it's going to be very tourist trappy. It's not. Definitely do the nighttime spectacular when you're in Jerusalem. You will not be disappointed. And then you've got I love this. You've got the holy grail of what's in the old city. You've got the Western Wall, this is the Western Wall right down here. And then up top, you've got the Dome of the Rock, which is the Dome of the Rock is actually not a mosque. It is actually a shrine to Muhammad in Islam. And over here, you've got the Al-Aqsa Mosque. But going to this area, you really have to go and have your own experience. By the way, at the Western Wall, it doesn't matter what religion you are, everything else, as long as you dress respectively, and that means men, they will ask you to put on a kippah. Women, you just want to make sure that your shoulders are covered, your elbows are covered, and your knees are covered. But other than that, everybody is welcome to go and touch the wall. Just be respectful when you're doing it, but I've had every single time I go there, it affects me. I have stories I can tell you, but I actually don't want to tell you because when you go there yourself, I really want you to be a blank slate and experience it and see how you feel when you go there. But then the old city itself, this is just one of the little alleys you can walk down that's going to be brilliant with lots of little shops and markets and interesting things to see. You can walk around the old city for hours. Sometimes you get lost, but it is, can you believe, you're going to walk around and it's going to seem like it's big. It's only 1 square kilometer, but it's just the fact there's so many different alleys. But it is something everybody should do at least once in their life. I personally love it every single time I go back. I could go there, you could send me over there once a month and I would be a happy camper, because there is so much to go through and so much to experience, and the atmosphere, it really is magic. So now we're going to go into the new part of Jerusalem. Now, the new part of Jerusalem is basically anything that's not in the old city. There are there's so much stuff to do, and I can't even, this is just, again, scratching the surface on what you can do. One of the nice things to see is the Church of All Nations and the Garden of Gethsemane. That is located to the east of the old city, and especially for Christians, this is an important site to see. Then you have the two, there's a lot of museums, by the way. I'm gonna show you two of the biggest museums. Now, this is Yad Vashem. My advice is to go. It is a tough subject. I will admit to you, hand on heart, I did not make it through without bursting into tears, but it is fascinating, and really, everybody on the, if I had my way, everybody on the planet would first be going and experiencing this, because it shows you so much of what the Jewish people went through in the Holocaust. But even though it's got some tough subject matter, just know that at the end, it's uplifting. And make sure to give yourself enough time. I've only been here once. This is the inside corridor, by the way. I've only been here once, and I didn't leave enough time. I missed like the last, I would say, hour of stuff. So just make sure you give yourself enough time when you go there, because you want to do it from the beginning to the end. And then the other big museum is the Israel Museum. Now, the Israel Museum, you could probably spend 3 days there and not see all the exhibits. It is massive. But one of the things I enjoy when I go there is seeing this massive model up here of the old city, and I think it's 66 and 67 AD that they take for this particular model. It shows you what the old city looked like in the time, basically at the beginning of the millennium. And it is, the really cool thing is every time I go back there, I see something different, because when they find out something about ancient old city, they actually update the model, which is really kind of cool. And of course, the big thing there is the fact that you've got the the Dead Sea Scrolls. Now, this is the building where the Dead Sea Scrolls are housed. It is shaped like this because this is what the top of the jar where they found the scrolls in actually looks like. It is all temperature controlled, and the whole experience, it shows you all the artifacts that they found. It's well worth visiting. And then you've got other outside things. Now this is, and again, Sharon, you might want to pop in on this one. I call it Machne Yehuda Market. Yeah, that's good, cool, Machne Yehuda Market. Now this is one of the best examples of a traditional Middle Eastern market. During the day, you can get something called a shuk card. And this is good for people, because even though as much as I talk, believe it or not, I get nervous and shy when I have to ask for samples. But for not a lot of money, you can get this shuk card that allows you to go to all the different stalls and get samples. And for somebody like me, who I know I'm obnoxious, but hey, I still get shy, it's really nice to have that card that you can go and ask. But during the day, it's all produce, fruits, vegetables, anything you could imagine. You've got juice bars and cafes, and it really is, and this is where it's not just a tourist place. This is where the people in Jerusalem do their actual shopping. So it really gets you under the skin and gives you the experience of what it's like to live in the city. But at night, this place turns into what can only be described as a pub crawl. All the fruits and vegetables go away, and then all these little pop-up bars come over. I've had one of my craziest nights ever in Israel at the market. It is a lot of fun. And don't think that just because Jerusalem is the holy city that you cannot have a good time when you're there, because you definitely can.
I think it's just nice to say, like you said before, that actually Jerusalem, people that live in Jerusalem, young, old, whatever, it's not a tourist market. Not that we spoke about any tourist market, by the way, before, but this is really not a tourist market. You do your shopping. Yeah, that's my kid. Hello. You do your bar hopping there. You do everything if you live there. And if you're a tourist.
And Dan, I agree with you. Okay, people. So from Jerusalem, you've got to go over to the Dead Sea. Now, the Dead Sea is a very unique place on Earth. It is the lowest Earth elevation on Earth. It is averaging between like 425, 430 meters below sea level. Because of its unique geography, there are so many just amazing things about this place. One, because you've got all the extra layers of atmosphere, the air there has extra oxygen. It filters out the bad UV rays and lets in the good sun rays. So if you can see how white I am, when I was at the Dead Sea, I actually was able to sit out, absorb the sun, and not wear sunscreen. Just that is enough to make me want to move there because I can't go in the sun at all. I mean, even outside today, I'd have to have factor 50 on. But all these different elements, it makes the Dead Sea what it is. Also, really kind of cool is the fact that the air has different elements in it, not just extra oxygen, but you've also got elements that are evaporating from the sea. And I was told this before I went there the first time, that it does work on, the air works on your central nervous system. I did not believe it at all. I thought that was just something they told the tourists. When I got there, I discovered that it works really well with my central nervous system. Miss Crazy Person really got chilled out, very relaxed, and it really does. I wish I could have a tub of this stuff piped into my office all the time to keep me chilled out. Now, at the Dead Sea has one of my absolute favorite sites in Israel, and that is Masada. Very brief history of Masada. This plateau is where King Herod built his winter palace that he would go to. This is one of the driest places on earth, and King Herod built a palace on top that had swimming pools. And this was over 2,000 years ago that they built this. The sheer engineering of what they do there is worth the trip, but the story of what happened there is incredible. It was the last hold of the Jewish zealots. In fact, the word zealot comes from this group, that when Rome took over Jerusalem back in 60 whatever AD, they escaped and holed themselves up on the top of Masada. Well, they were safe up there and the Romans did not like it. So the Romans laid siege for, I don't know the exact amount of time, that didn't go into my head, but for a long time the Romans built this ramp up to the door to break in and enslave these people. Well, when the zealots realized that the Romans were going to break through the next morning, they made a very difficult decision and chose death over slavery. So when the Romans broke in, literally everybody was dead because they chose to live life the way they wanted. They were not going to be slaves. And you can go up to the top. First of all, if you're energetic, you can get up and walk, but this is my preferred method of getting to the top, which is a great cable car ride that you get to go on. And then when you're at the top, you get to explore all the ruins. What I found fascinating when I was up there is the fact that you can go into buildings and there is a black line along the wall. And when they first started realizing the treasure that this site was, they marked where the buildings that they found were, and then they painstakingly built up the rooms from all the stones that were located around the base. Best way to put this, there's a line that shows you what they found and what they fixed. So you can actually see with your own eyes, what the state it was and how they are preserving it. The views from up here are absolutely incredible. And to find out how they save the water. Basically, they built drainage ditches all over the area that whenever the rains did come, it all tunneled down into the water cisterns. And there's little things that demonstrate how this was done. It is so worth visiting. Just watch it in the summer because it does get really hot, but for a lot of the year, especially in the winter, it's really nice weather. And also in the Dead Sea area, you've got Ein Gedi National Park. Now, I've shown this primarily because of the beautiful waterfalls. There is a lovely hiking trail that goes down Ein Gedi, and most of the years there are waterfalls. Obviously, certain times of year the waterfalls a little bit more, but it's a really scenic oasis that people can go and travel down, and it's a beautiful way to spend a morning doing these hikes. And now the main resort city for the Dead Sea for Israel, and there's other smaller ones, but the main resort city is called Ein Bakek. This is where you are going to find all the beautiful resort hotels. They all have spas, and the nice thing about the Ein Bakek area is, yes, it is aimed at tourism, but there's also a lot of health tourism going on there. The Dead Sea is really good for people with eczema and psoriasis and rheumatoid issues. There's all a variety of health issues that the mud and the water can really assist. So not only can you get the pampering spa treatments, there's a lot of these hotels will have health programs that help people with skin issues, and it really helps them manage their issues. But it's also very relaxing. And beautiful pools and everything else. I can't, by the way, I'm not going into specific hotels, just primarily because I work for the for the Israeli government. I have to be very, very unbiased. So you will always be able to find through the tour operators or, good examples of where to stay. They'll be able to do that research for you. I have to concentrate on the sites. So here we have the 8 typical things you want to do when you're at the Dead Sea. First, you go to the shore. Hopefully, you will have made sure that your cuts, scrapes, blisters are covered in waterproof plaster, because if you go in, or big thing, do not shave before you go in the Dead Sea. Trust me, you will know you shaved. I did this myself like an idiot the first time I went, and it was not nice. But cover up any cuts. Cover yourself in the mineral wood. They normally have heated tubs of this stuff along most of the beaches. And you go in and you have your float. And it is such a bizarre thing. You go in and the buoyancy takes over, and it feels like you're being held by big hands and cradled in the water. I personally love this experience. I'm so glad I got to do it. And it also, for an end of a circle trip, this place is perfect because it will soothe your bones and muscles after you've done all this walking. So we are done with our circle trip. I have no idea. Oh, I'm actually pretty good with the timings. So the lovely Sharon and I are going to, do we have questions? And Sharon, you've got to take yourself off mute.
I didn't see any specific questions on our chat. No. If anyone has questions, this is the time to write or to raise your hand, guys. Or
now,
it's extremely actually clear.
What I can say is you all have my email. I am here for you. If you have a question, I am so happy to help you anytime you want. Just especially now, send me an email and I will find out for you. That is my job. And I actually love doing it.
Michelle, what is the next topic for next Thursday?
Now, topic for next Thursday, I think we're going to go into more about Tel Aviv and Jerusalem. So I am going to be doing my 2 cities presentation, and I'm going to tackle Tel Aviv and Jerusalem a little bit deeper. There's a good reason for this. They deserve more. Both of them, I just barely scratched the surface of these 2 cities, and I want to go into it a little bit deeper to allow you to see what amazing city break destinations Tel Aviv and Jerusalem are.
Okay, Karen.
And I will be
when is
sending
the best time to visit?
Now, the best time to visit all depends on when and how hot you like it, okay? You will talking normally from May, June, July, and August are, well, July and August are definitely hot. January, February, and March, that is when you can get rain, and it tends to be a lot cooler. December, the late autumn too. I love November, only because the heat has stopped going so crazy, but it's still nice. But I know I'm weird, by the way. I am not a big one on hot weather. There are so many people, if you want guaranteed summer sunshine, oh my goodness, go to Israel. Even I would say anytime from April through to the end of October, definitely the end of September and even October, you will find the weather is just glorious. Lots of sunshine. And, you know, just make sure you bring sunscreen, because the sun there definitely, especially if you're from coming from the UK, the sun is hot. Sunscreen, comfy shoes, and a hat and water bottle. Those are the 4 things I will not go around Israel without, because I dry out the second I land, so I'm constantly drinking out of my water bottle. But like I said, it all depends on when. Now, if you have clients that have specifics that they want, like they want to know what's the chances of this being rainy and send me an email. I am so happy to help you anytime you get questions.
Michelle, maybe just mention your email to anyone that
are... Oh, anybody, now, if there's somebody on here that didn't receive my email, it is Michelle, M-I-C-H-E-L-L-E, at goisrael.gov.il. And don't be afraid. I mean, we've got 4 of these set up right now. I'm doing 1 a week for the next 4 weeks. If there is a topic you think I should cover, please, please let me know. I will see if I can fit it in. Maybe I'll do one of my sessions as random topics that people ask for. I am, well, obviously you can tell I'm not Israeli, but I enjoy doing research. And if there's something you want to know, and I would love to learn more and tell you about it. So.
Thank you so much, Michelle. Thank you everyone that joined us today. We'll send the presentation to everyone that participated or anyone that will ask us, and we'll see you again next week.
And hopefully see you next week. Thank you so much for sharing your time with us. We really appreciate it. And just think, Israel, when this all starts going again, people will enjoy it and you will have happy, happy clients. Thank you very much.